Hey everybody, Chris Peters here from FloHockey, and we're coming back to you with another edition of NHL Scouting Reports coming from our Top 100 on FloHockey.tv. And today we're going to talk about number 24 on that list, Andrew Cristall of the Kelowna Rockets. You could read the entire Top 100 at FloHockey.tv right now, so make sure you do that. But let's talk about Cristall a little bit more and why he has become one of the most polarizing prospects of the 2023 NHL Draft. A very wide range of different spots in different rankings. You see a lot of the public lists. He can be very high on some, out of the first round in others. For me, he's number 24, and I'll tell you why. I think that the offensive capabilities that Andrew Cristall has are high end, among the best in this draft class. He was one of the top producers in the WHL with only Connor Bedard and Logan Stankoven finishing ahead of him in the points per game average. He had 1.76 points per game thanks to 95 points in 58 games this year. And Cristall was a dynamic talent. Now, being a dynamic talent in junior and being a dynamic talent in the NHL are two entirely different things. And the reason there is such a kind of variance on where you'll see him ranked is that his skating ability isn't necessarily that strong, and then he's also not that big of a player. So coming in with a 5'10 frame and being a little bit on the lighter side, you need to be able to have such significantly high-end offense, high-end hockey sense in order to overcome some of the limitations that you have physically. The question that I think a lot of people have right now is the offensive ability, is the hockey sense, is the things that he does that allowed him to create points in junior hockey, will that help him at the NHL level? Now, I think there's a lot of risk, and I think that putting him at 24th for me was quite a bit, but I also think that what we saw this season was not a fluke. 95 points in 58 games, or 54 games rather, 39 goals. This is a player that has some high-end offensive traits, and he's also very creative. I think that's another key factor and one of the reasons why I do still have him as a first-round prospect. The things that he can do, the way he can exploit defenses, the way that he operates offensively, all allow him to produce. And I think that they can at the NHL level. Now, he's going to have to get stronger. He's going to have to get, he's not going to get taller, but he's going to have to get stronger, make sure that he's very sturdy on his skates. His lower body strength is going to need to improve in particular. And with that strengthening of the lower body, hopefully there's a little bit more jump in the skating, maybe a little bit of a longer stride as well could help. But I think that what he does with the puck on his stick is really important. And it's something that separates him from a lot of players in this class, because I do think that his skill level is such that he's going to be able to produce at pretty much wherever he goes. So how do we kind of figure that out? I think that that's really the tough part, is that there's a lot of projecting going on. But I do think that he thinks the game at a very high level, and then he's got a really tremendous shot. He made a lot of plays this year, scored a lot of goals. He didn't necessarily have the speed to separate, but the skating was fine enough to be able to allow him to get where he needed to be. He understands time and space very well, which is another key factor. If you have a player that can kind of move into the areas where they're more dangerous to score, that's what we think we're going to see with Andrew Cristall as he moves up the ranks. Now, he didn't have a great under-18 World Championship, which was the last impression of his season, which wasn't necessarily good. He did start playing better as that tournament wore on. I thought his best two games were the last two games of the tournament, the semifinal, and then into the bronze medal game, where he was starting to make more of an impact. His vision is super high-end. His hand skills are outstanding, and that allows him to execute the plays that he's thinking up with that hockey sense that he has. So you've got that element. The goal scoring ability, I think, is very strong. That's another reason why he's going to have a chance. But there are a lot of definitely valuable arguments to have about the risk factor with a player like Cristall. We see the numbers, and they're eye-popping. We see what he does with the puck on his stick. Off the puck, there's less value. He doesn't have necessarily the greatest defensive game. He doesn't necessarily impact the game as much away from the puck. He'll be a wing. So there are definitely some detractions there. But the reason I still have him at 24, as I mentioned before, is that ability to find seams, the ability to get into space and to make yourself more dangerous. And I think that that's something that can carry him a long way. You don't always have to be the fastest player to do that. You don't always have to be the biggest player to do that. If you can do that at an NHL level and create those opportunities for yourself and make yourself an option for your teammates, that's going to go a long way. I don't think he's going to be a play driver at the NHL level. I do think that he's got a chance to be a good finisher, a guy that can play, potentially in your middle six as a scoring option, a guy that will provide secondary scoring more likely than primary scoring, but will find ways. there's also the chance that maybe he's just a really good AHL player. And there are plenty of players like that. And there's actually still, even if you draft that, if you have organizational depth, there's still value in that. Of course, we're trying to draft NHL players when you're at the NHL draft. But I think Cristall has enough value that even if he doesn't make it as a full-time NHL player, that he'll still be able to contribute. But I think he will make it as an NHL player. That's why I have him in the first round. If I didn't think so, I wouldn't have ranked him that high. But I think it's going to be very fascinating to watch where he ultimately goes on draft day. There's a strong possibility that he does not go in the first round. There's a possibility he goes in the second. And, there might be some teams that don't even have him on their list until later than that. And that's going to be interesting to see. But he's the only one that can dictate where he goes next after his draft season is complete. And that's going to be one of the more fascinating trajectories to watch among all the players that are going to be selected at the 2023 NHL Draft. Andrew Cristall, polarizing but very intriguing, a player that I think still has a lot of value and could potentially bring that to an NHL team. Yes, there's risk, but I think there's potential for great reward, and that's why I have him at 24. Don't forget, you can read the entire top 100 on FloHockey, and stay tuned for many more scouting videos from us right here as we lead you up right to the 2023 NHL Draft in Nashville. We'll catch you next time.